Welcome to One Froggy Full Build Friday. Apparently, it's the month of supports, because to fulfill our quest, I am building yet another character that slots into that category quite securely. However, I can promise that we're not making a witch this time, because we're debuting DotA's durable diva, Largo the Bard Monk. That's a bit of an interesting title, but what exactly does it entail? Let's warm up our voices before hitting the high notes and find out. Largo and his people, a race of toadfolk, come from a living island that can only speak in song. Largo was raised in the shamanic practices of these people before setting out to roam the world alongside his frogling disciples. In-game, he is a melee combatant that whacks enemies with his guitar and is meant to serve as a support character that can disable foes. Passively, his Encore extends the duration of buffs that he applies to himself and his team. The beautifully named Catchy Lick causes his tongue to snap out and drag back the target it hits, while also applying a dispel effect to them, removing aspects both good and bad. His frogling friends do feature in Frog Stomp, which has him tossing them to an area where they proceed to deal damage and slow those caught in the area with micro stuns once per second. His Croak of Genius, I am loving these names, reduces the mana cost of a target hero, and causes their attacks to leave enemies with damage over time. Rounding out his playlist is Amphibian Rhapsody, which replaces his basic abilities with the damage boosting Bull Belly Blitz, the speed enhancing Hot Feet Hustle, and the restorative Island Elixir. He can only play one of these at a time and increases his own armor while doing so, but with a special upgrade, he can have two of these effects going at once. When it comes to a baseline, Largo is noted to be a durable, hardy sort, but honestly the buffs he shares seem like a more important aspect to his character. While he mainly fights with his guitar, which isn't hard to work in, I do also want to incorporate his tongue into his kit. I'd also love to include his froglings, but we'll have to see how doable that is. If I can't get them in, I will at least try to replicate their damaging area effect and their general disruption ability. To start the show for this croaking crooner, we could consider the Trip Key ancestry, but I'll be real with ya. The Trip Key tend towards tiny for my tastes. I want to capture the bulk of this bullfrog balladeer, so we'll actually be using the awakened animal ancestry. Remember, this is Pathfinder. Giant toads and frogs are fully natural animals in this world, and we can represent them with the swimming animal heritage and the water dwelling specialty, since he is of course an amphibian. We'll have Awakened Magic for his initial ancestry feat, and use it to take a primal cantrip. Probably something utility based that won't require a save, like Rousing Splash or Read Aura, if your party doesn't have another caster to cover that. As an awakened animal, Largo will get a boost to Constitution and Wisdom, which gives him some nice hardiness, but takes a flaw to his intelligence. Fortunately, there is also a free boost here that we can use to pump up his charisma. As for his background, I wanted something that could play into the idea of him being raised as a shaman among his people. So I was looking for something with some more natural aspects to it, which did lead me to Animal Whisperer. It isn't as nice a fit as I'd like, but aside from making him trained in nature, it can also make him trained in swamp lore, which I think is pretty great. And if you want to consider the froglings as animals, the train animal skill feat that this provides could certainly fit that as well. This background does mean that he can get a boost to charisma, and then slap his free boost on strength, just so that he's a bit better at wielding ol' El Kabong here. Kabong! We will be building Largo as one of the two classes described in his title, and if you can read my title, you might have realized that we're building a bard. This charisma-based caster class comes with occult spells that we'll be using to top up our team while tangling with targets, but there's a few bigger points here as well. As a bard, Largo gains a muse, and with his pure musicality, he obviously takes the Maestro Muse, as it does come with the Lingering Composition feat. This, right away, gives us an ability to resemble his Encore passive. Now, what does he use that with? Obviously, his Courageous Anthem. This provides him with a team-wide buff to damage, and some other stuff, but it's a damage that's important for representing his Bull Belly Blitz. As for actual spells, there's plenty of really flavorful, but not entirely useful cantrips like Bullhorn, Musical Accompaniment, and Summon Instrument. A bit more generally useful are the likes of Guidance for some support stuff, and then haunting him, giving him a sonic damaging effect that hits in an area. As a bard with a Maestro Muse, he does get Soothe as a spell automatically, but the one I would specifically look into is Echoing Weapon. This can enhance an ally's attacks, causing their weapon to hum with sonic damage at the end of each of the wielder's turns, dealing damage in a way similar to the echoing effects of his Croak of Genius. Regarding the skills for our Largo, we're looking at training in occultism and performance just from being a bard alone. He'll take further skill increases to acrobatics, athletics, diplomacy, and survival. As for his ability boosts, I'd increase his strength, dexterity, intelligence, and charisma. Largo will be wielding a battle lute, so he'll want to pump up his strength to better wield that, while I will also be investing a bunch into constitution to enhance his durability. However, paramount of his ability scores is going to be charisma, since that's what he needs to jam out and cast his spells. Sliding down the strings into second level, we'll take a quick dip into the Flip It Contestant Dedication. This gives him a lash unarmed attack with grapple and reach, but only a D4 of damage. This archetype does set us up for an important aspect of his kit, but before that, we have the impressive performance skill feat. This build is going to be filled with performance-based skill feats, and this one simply lets Largo use his performance skill in place of diplomacy in certain situations. Now, unlike the past two casters I've made this month, the bard does actually get some features at third level. Reflex expertise and signature spells, which I would use for Soothe or Echoing Weapon, come in along with a skill increase that makes Largo an expert in performance for obvious reasons. As his general feat, he'll use Toughness to demonstrate his durability, and then we get into his second rank spells. The big one here is going to be Dispel Magic, which we will immediately signature for the effects of his catchy lick. I would also toss Noise Blast into the ring. This gives an area burst that can create a potential stun on a critical failure, drawing inspiration from his Frog Stomp. Building out of the Flip It Contestant archetype, Largo's level 4 has Lassoing Lash. This completes his catchy lick, letting him pull in targets, and to try to help him catch even bigger flies, since DotA does feature the likes of giants and treants, he uses Titan Wrestler for his skill feat. My intent is to mainly use this for a catchy lick, but if you find yourself needing to shove through the paparazzi or some such, have at it. Stepping onto the stage of 5th level, Largo takes ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma. Going after last level's skill feat, he'll take his skill increase to Athletics this time, to become an expert of it. We'll then grab Natural Ambassador, inspired by the way that Largo was raised to commune with nature. Third rank spells have some classic buffing spells as we've seen in the past few builds, but I think Horde of Underlings is another good one here. It could honestly be a good way to represent his Frog Stomp, as these underlings, tiny tympanic tadpoles, create difficult terrain, and thus slow foes down. After that, we'll walk the line into level 6 with a Hymn of Healing, giving us a way to recreate the effects of his Island Elixir Amphibian Rhapsody. This will come along with the Virtuosic Performer's skill feat, which I would probably take for these strings, as he seems to use his guitar more than doing any actual singing. By level 7, Largo becomes an expert spellcaster and a master in the performance skill. The Die Hard general feat continues to build on Largo as a bit bulkier than your banal bard, and then we'll have some spells to get into. I think any sonic or song-based spells are good for him, but I'm going to specifically suggest Implement of Destruction as a spell to enhance an ally's attack with persistent damage. Perhaps even better reflecting his Croak of Genius than Echoing Weapon. There's also Pest Swarm, which has a wide range of effects depending on which one you call forth. Now my intent behind this is that it could possibly be used for Frog Stomp. The rats do stand out as an option for this to me, with them knocking creatures prone and leaving behind difficult terrain. There's also the added benefit of this spell requiring reflex saves, which can be a little hard to find in the occult spell list at times. The next song in our set is Triple Time at level 8, which is perhaps obviously based on the Hot Feet Hustle from Largo's Amphibian Rhapsody. It's nice that this is another cantrip composition to swap between his Courageous Anthem, though I'm sure you'll be using that more than this. For his skill feat, Inflame Crowd continues to let Largo swap out his Diplomacy skill for his Performance skill, by also allowing him to use it to make requests under certain circumstances. On that topic though, 9th level grants him a Performer's Heart, Fortitude Expertise, and a skill increase to make him a Master in Athletics. Thanks to that Awakened Magic we took, Largo can pick up Animal Summoner as his ancestry feat for this level. The neat thing about this feat in particular is the automatic scaling on the spell it grants, and I do actually have a specific idea for that in about 4 levels. In the meantime, 5th rank spells has Stagnate Time as another option for the slowing effect of his Frog Stomp. But I would probably signature Noise Blast here, to go ahead and get that heightened damage, and also wield it against groups of enemies in hopes of getting some crit fails for the string of stunning strums. Let's get loud on this lily pad with level 10's Fortissimo Composition. This is another spell-shaped composition, similar to our Lingering Composition, which means that they cannot be used together. However, this one will let him make his Courageous Anthem more potent, which I did want to use for his Bull Belly Blitz to perhaps better represent the damage boost that it offers. Maintaining our musical mastery, we mix in Distracting Performance, which I still like as a sort of support-based skill feat, with it letting Largo make himself the center of attention, so that his companions can sneak around with a bit less trouble. With Largo's level 11, Bard Weapon Expertise makes him better at battering baddies with his banjo, and Perception Mastery does exactly what it says on the tin. I'm going to go for a nature skill increase here, making him an expert in it and allowing us to better explore his shamanic side. There aren't really any standout spells to me at this level, but we do have robust health as our towering toe-tapping toads general feat to make him a little bit sturdier. At least in the sense that it's easier for his allies to get him patched up and ready to go for an encore. Keeping up the tempo, Largo has Harmonize as yet another spell shape effect, but one that allows him to mix two of his composition spells together, much in the way that he can upgrade his Amphibian Rhapsody to have two of them going at once. We do then actually take a step away from his performance feats, because I'm feeling froggy. That is to say, I'm taking Quick Jump as a skill feat for this level. This isn't really related to anything I noticed about him in-game, but I feel as though it would be remiss of me not to include this on a build for a Toad person. Back it up, back it in, and let me begin, because level 13 is gonna be a big one. It starts simply enough with Light Armor Expertise, Weapon Specialization, and a skill increase to make him a Master in Nature. As an Awakened Animal, we'll use Natural Senses to grant him Low Light Vision, as that's just always handy. And then as for spells, I'd probably take a 7th rank Haste here, to get that team-wide buff as another nod to his Hot Feet hustle. That being said, I would probably signature Vibrant Bravado simply as another solid sonic effect. Now, you might think that's it. But remember a few levels back when I took Animal Summoner? Well, at this point, it's been heightened to 7th rank, which means that it can be used to call forth level 9 or lower creatures. This means we can specifically call forth a Concert Frog, a level 8 animal. Bringing a ballad to the battlefield, this beast is basically a bard that can help our boy buff the band. Honestly, we don't even need it to fight. Just spend your action to sustain the spell, let it sit in its corner, and sing two of its conduct bonuses into existence to join yours. I'll be honest, I'm really digging this idea. Now on the topic of buffing options, I was originally hesitant to take it, but I do want to add Rallying Anthem to his set. Honestly, Largo doesn't do much to buff his team's protections, but he does increase his own when using Amphibian Rhapsody, and I think this is a decent way to represent that. There's also Powerful Leap as a skill feat to expand on the range of his jumps and bounds, which might be me stereotyping, but he's a toad, damn it! Listen, if nothing else, it'll help him when it comes to stage dives. Headlining level 15, our ability boosts to Strength, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. The skill increase here will make him a legend in performance, while Master Spellcaster as his class feature makes his massive musical magic more magnificent. Fleet is maybe a general feat I should have taken sooner due to the low speed of his ancestry, but I wanted that burliness first. The big get for this level though is Musical Shift, which provides a benefit to allies and a penalty to enemies all at the same time. Personally, I like the Sharp Key signature, as another way to represent the bleed effect of his Croak of Genius, though I suppose it kinda works in a reverse way in this case. We've honestly covered a lot of Largo's kit, so for Swampy Singer's Sweet 16, we seized Powerful Lash, which I think is actually a little miswritten on Pathbuilder and the Archives. It has an action icon associated with it, but I think it's supposed to be a passive increase to his tongue's damage while also adding the sweep trait to it. Now Legendary Performer is probably an obvious pick as a skill feat. It is what we're going for, it's just obvious, as this simply makes him the stadium-filling superstar that he is. By level 17, we gain a greater Performer's Heart, and a skill increase that makes Largo a legend in athletics. I will admit, none of the ancestry feats here are really speaking to me, so I would just go for Fearsome Form. It's a decent option to debilitate enemies, inflicting the ever-useful Frighten condition, but it just doesn't feel Largo to me. For level 18, we'll shuffle Eternal Composition into the playlist as one of those rare non-capstone feats that grant the permanent quicken status. This is a real good one, ensuring that he's always got time to tap out a tune. Cloud Jump follows on from this, leading out of his legendary athletics, and simply giving him the hops worthy of his heritage. Level 19 sees our Shamanic Singer's spells increase to legendary proficiency, while Magnum Opus gives him a 10th rank spell. His skill increase will make him a legend in nature, and his home in every port general feat means that he's got groupies willing to let him crash wherever he may go. I do actually have a 10th rank spell I really like here, in the form of Shadow Army. I'm taking this as one final way to create his Frog Stomp, since he can choose to have this inflict the slowed condition per the mini stuns that they do. Finishing out the build of our Bullfrog Belter, our ability boosts go to Strength, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. While I would say it isn't true to his soothing tones, I do still like Discordant Voice as his capstone class feat. Through this, he can provide his allies with greater damage when he uses a Courageous Anthem, which fits in with his Bull Belly Blitz. Then, we'll use Consult the Spirits as his skill feat. Going all the way back to his lore, this is probably the best way to play into the whole aspect of his people's ability to communicate with their living island. When it comes to playing Largo, he's probably the truest buffer I've built this month. Knowing what buff and when to use them will be important, especially as you expand your range of compositions. Keep in mind that most of the buffs you provide will be a status type bonus, so you won't be able to stack them with other status types. Your biggest issue will probably be managing your action economy between your single action compositions, positioning, and casting your actual spells. There might honestly be turns where you go without casting any proper spells, so use your extra actions to better position yourself, aid your allies so that you can provide them with a circumstance bonus, or even use distracting performance to let your allies attack from hiding. If you're looking to take this build into a free archetype game, you could expand on the Flip It contestant a bit more with the likes of Slingshot Maneuver to move your allies around, or Snap Falling Fruit to enhance protections a bit. I don't think the other feats really fit him as well, so outside of that, I'd consider either a Druid archetype, based on his connection to the natural world, or a Celebrity archetype for his own performance stuff. Operatic Adventurer from this could save him a few skill increases, and Perfect Pitch can increase the range of his sonic effects. There's also Prima Donna for a real fun pickup, but I would wait to pull this out for when it's hard for enemies to get at you. That's our playlist, but is it pitch perfect or does it fall flat? As the band plays me out, let's take it to the bridge and find out. Largo the Bard Monk is a swimmer awakened animal bard with a maestro muse and a background as an animal whisperer. This is meant to lean into the idea of he and his people communicating with their living island, but I think the very late Consult the Spirits for nature might be an even better way of representing that. I couldn't quite cover Largo's Froggy disciples wholly, but you could easily imagine them being part of the concert frog he calls forth through Animal Summoner. With the battle lute as his weapon, he's ready to rock on stage or in a brawl, while the bard gives him the support options that he needs. His Maestro Muse specifically provides him with lingering composition, giving him a way to extend the duration of the buffs that he applies, as long as those buffs are his compositions. To represent his catchy lick, we need two things. The Lassoing Lash from the Flip It contestant dedication will let him pull people in, but for the dispelling aspect, we'll go ahead and signature the Dispel magic spell. With us lacking the Froglings, I at least tried to recreate the effects of Frog Stomp, and honestly, we've got a good range of options for it. Noise Blast inflicts damage and can leave a foe stunned on a critical failure, while Pest Swarm fits the idea of calling forth creatures that deal damage, can limit actions by knocking enemies prone, and leave behind difficult terrain that's harder to move through, effectively slowing them. I will admit, Croak of Genius presents another tough aspect as mana doesn't really feature into Pathfinder, but I was able to represent the persistent damage it inflicts through the likes of Echoing Weapon, Implement of Destruction, or even a Musical Shift. That just leaves us with Amphibian Rhapsody, and with that having 3 different aspects, we need 3 different effects. Courageous Anthem, especially once Largo gets Discordant Voice, fits in for Bull Belly Blitz. A Heightened Haste or just Triple Time gives us the speed boost of Hot Feet Hustle, and then a Hymn of Healing provides the restoration of his Island Elixir. We can even capture the upgraded Amphibian Rhapsody with Harmonize, allowing him to combine 2 of these effects together, weaving a devastating array of buffs to bring down the house. This Traveling Toad and his Tadpole Twerps trade toe-tapping Terpsichorean tunes for a terrific tango that targets troublemakers and touches up his team to their tantamount top. Let me know what you think of this build, as well as what other sorts of builds you'd like to see in a comment. If you like what you see here and want more, check out the Patreon for early access and extra content, and then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out the blog, which is linked below along with the Twitter and Discord. As always, thanks for watching and have a fantastic Froggy Friday.
Allow me to introduce myself. I am the real Prince Naveen.